Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, and where have you been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And here we are as we bring to you first reaction to Ange Postecoglou's opening press conference as Tottenham Hotspur head coach. Back alongside me, look, it's a number of our regular panelists here that are going to break down, dissect, review, summarise what we've heard from the main man in charge of Tottenham Hotspur. Helping us do that tonight, one man we're going to try and catch before he makes the trip to Bangkok is in high definition for our viewing audience on YouTube. We've upgraded to a mobile phone, to a laptop. Jason McGovern's here. Jace, how are you, bud?
It's scary, isn't it, eh? It's scary. I'm even more ugly than people thought I was. It's horrendous.
Oh dear, mate. How are you, bud? You okay?
It's the bloke who does right car, wrong car or something, isn't it?
I don't know where this show will go, but you know what? This is what happens when you get the regulars together. Everyone's a bit more relaxed when there's regular guests on. I don't know why. Everyone feels like they can be themselves more. Don't ask me why. Jordan and Jason make up our panel tonight. To have her back on Last One on Spurs. We've got the wonderful Christina Zandes back on. Christina, how are you?
Hello. All good. Good to be back. Feels like it's been ages, actually, since I've been on here. So, yeah. And, yeah, good to see Jason. It's been a while since I've been on with him. So, yeah.
We're not as moaning as
We've
much.
got the
So
glamour
it does feel like
tonight.
it's longer.
Got the glamour with us.
Well, I was going to say, that's Ricky, that's the glamour, not me.
I don't know about that. Jeez, not at this time of night. Anyway, the way it's gone here. If anyone wonders why this show was scheduled for 8, then to 8:30, have 2 kids under 3 and you'll find out why. Thank you for your patience. Making up, joining our panel tonight, another regular on Last Word on Spurs. You've seen his face a lot at the moment. I think the mood is swiftly changing in the Tyrant household on this man. Potentially, we've got the wonderful Patrick Tyrant back. Pat, how are you, bud?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Well, I was good. I've got a bit of a gripe, and will you allow me to have a couple of minutes to discuss it? Is that okay before we start?
I could do with a break, Pat. I'm just trying to put the kids down, so you crack on.
Really frustrated about the increase in the match day ticket prices. Really upset and disappointed by it. And I just wanted to voice my concern, and obviously concerns of a lot of fans. I'll take it back a bit so people will see where I'm coming from. But when they announced the winners of the FAB, which is the Fan Advisory Board, I put a tweet out saying, congratulations to Johnny Tyndall, I think his name is. He's the guy who won the season ticket holders seat, which is obviously I'm a season ticket holder. So he would have been the guy I voted for. He put a tweet out saying, I'm delighted to win. Looking forward to being your true voice from the stands directly to the boardroom. So I quote tweeted it saying, congratulations, it's good that you won it. I can't lie, I didn't vote. If I did vote, I would have voted for you, as you look like the guy in terms of who I would have resonated with the most. But I don't believe in anything that these guys are selling us, and I don't think it'll make a difference. So underneath in the comments, people were saying, "Oh, Patrick, bit disappointed you didn't vote because a fan like yourself probably, would have made a difference, and your voice is something that other people may listen to." I said, anyway, I don't believe what they're selling. We'll see how it goes. But at the moment, there's a big disconnect between us, as in the fans and the board. Yada, yada, yada. 2 days later, he couldn't make it out. He couldn't write it. These guys then go and they didn't even announce the ticket price increase. It's just we found out when the new prices came out that these prices had increased massively by 20%. So just to put this into context, like you couldn't make this up. I mean, I sit in the South Stand, block 254. A category A game now is 88 quid, 88 pounds. So you're not getting basically any change from £100. That's just for one game. And to add insult to injury or add salt in the wound, they've increased the category A games from 5 teams to now 6 teams. So Newcastle have gone from a Cat C to a Cat A. Fair enough, they're now a Champions League team. They're a good team. But that's now an extra game, which you're paying 88 quid for. It's mental. I mean, there's 6 category A games, 9 category B fixtures, and only 4 Cat C fixtures. So for my seat, £88 for Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and Newcastle. Category B games, which is now £64 for adults, Villa, Brentford, Brighton, Palace, Everton, Fulham, Forest, West Ham, and Wolves. And category C, with all due respect, Bournemouth, Burnley, Luton, and Sheffield United. The adults there for £54. So if you're looking at it, an adult, with 2 kids or 2 young teenagers, if you want to take your kids to the games which they want to go to, let's be honest, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, kids are 42 quid, adults are £88. So you're looking at about £200, all like just to take yourself and 2 kids. That's not including food. God knows how much that's going to be when we get to the stadium. We haven't been inside there yet. So of course they're going to increase it. A few people may say, there's always going to be people that side with Daniel Levy. He needed to do it. Everything's gone up, blah, blah, blah. I get that. The average rate of inflation has been 10%. Prices have gone up by 20%. There's no need for it. It doesn't make any sense. We already had the most expensive tickets in not only the Premier League in Europe, and they've now increased it by 20%. And it just feels like to me that they're just pricing the average fan out of going to games. Season ticket holders, the thing is, when everything came out, they said that, prices have been frozen, and we were all clapping them and agreeing with that. It made sense in this climate and everything else. But that was for season ticket holders. Ironically, the people that could probably afford it the most have got away with it. But it's just your regular parent, your regular person who isn't on the season ticket list, or isn't lucky enough to have one. They're now having to pay these astronomical fees for what we've been subjected to over the last 2 or 3 years. Crap football. Horrible football. Yes, we've got superstars in Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, but the brand of football hasn't been great. Hopefully that may change. We're going to get into that. But I just wanted to get off my chest, man, because I'm just really disappointed by it. These guys introduce this FAB and say things are going to change. And then lo and behold, there's been no communication. None of us knew this was happening until we saw the prices. And it just stinks. And it's just, then they wonder why there's a disconnect and why there's a discontent and why people don't like Daniel Levy. This is the reason why.
I think, Pat, if I'm being honest with you, this is the frustration where even like today, for example, we're going to come on to obviously Postecoglou's press conference, but it just feels like the summer that we may have taken a couple of steps forward in terms of the fact of, bringing in some players that we can resonate to, part of a journey, part of a new destination. But then ultimately, for what they've done with the ticketing, it's just made those steps forward look utterly pointless, really, to some degree. And it's almost like I don't quite understand why we've been put in this situation where, as you said, Pat, the lack of clarity on it is baffling. We had the trust on last night, and again, people have their views on the supporters' trust and the influence of whether they can do more. But the fact is that they were told by the football club, not consulted, told this is what was going to happen. And it is worrying that there isn't more sense of a control element there, why that is the case. And I said this last night, I make that point again, that if you're going to up those prices and make it, I think, really pricing out families, Pat, as you've alluded to, then there's absolutely no reason why Tottenham should not be going for 2 prominent centre-halves, going to get another creative midfielder in the window, and actually giving the Postecoglou a squad which is capable of actually achieving more than just this word transitional season. Because ultimately, if you're expecting fans to pay the highest season ticket prices in the country, along now with the fact you've got the match day tickets at the highest possible point, then as fans, we deserve to see the best possible product. We should not be sold short at the end of a transfer window. I don't understand why. And again, Jason, you're going to hate me for saying this, and I'm just using this as an example. You can come back on me on this, but Spurs have been linked with Mickey van der Ven and Edmund Tapsoba. Why can it only be one out of the two? Why can't it be both? This is what baffles me. Why can't it be both? You've now decided to make those ticket prices higher. So why should we sit here and accept only one of those players when we conceded 63 goals last season, the worst defence in the Premier League, or up there in the top 5 worst defences, and you're not going to steady that back line in what it needs to do? It's always a hash job. It's always 1 instead of 2. And I don't want to start the show on a negative, but look, I've said it on the numerous amount of times with Tottenham in a transfer window. I can't ever remember going into a transfer window and coming out with exactly what we need. So look, judgment will remain until the end of the window. We shall see if they change their spots. But we are going to try and bring to you a positive show as best as we can do. Spurs have got a new manager. He spoke very, very well today, Ange Postecoglou, in his opening press conference. He covered pretty much everything there was to cover, from Harry Kane, their chat they're going to have this week, Tungi and Ndombele. Jason thinks I'm trolling him at this point. Who may miss Spurs' potential tour, the style of football we might be going to see, what to expect from Tottenham. And I think, as expected on the whole, he did speak very, very well. He's a guy that, in his own words, likes a rebuild. And my goal is to make special moments here. Jace, if I open up with you before we get into the context of some of the questions he was asked, he came across, I think, as really being humorous, self-assured, confident, thoughtful. And let's be honest about it, it was quite a lengthy press conference, over half an hour. But I think it is someone who comes across as really a deep thinker, someone who cares about the game. I really like some of the answers to his questions. Difficult to really judge him without seeing Spurs in the flesh and how they're going to play. But from the press conference, what did you take away from it?
Well, the first thing I'd say is it was nice to see a press conference that I cared about, because last week all I kept reading about was one that I couldn't give two hoops for, from South London or Southwest London or whatever, and why so many people were triggered by a press conference that has absolutely nothing to do with our football club. I have no idea. So that's the first thing. I couldn't give two hoops what gets discussed in Southwest London. You're right. It came across. I'm not so sure there was any big surprises in there or anything I wasn't expecting. You know, he couldn't go into detail on some of the players. I think you're always going to be, you know, even on somebody like Tongi, you're never really going to come out in your opening press conference and say, look, I've seen him train. I think he's this, that, the third thing. So we can't wait to get shot or anything like that. You've got to give everyone a fair crack at the whip. And there's certainly, there would certainly be some things that he probably wasn't totally honest about, that he may, you know, he just can't know the answers to, in fairness to him. So, but no, I think overall it was the type of press conference, as you say. I think he's happy to be there. I think you really understand that, you know, that he has had a tough ride everywhere he's been, and you know, he is prepared to work hard. And I think he probably, whilst he didn't call it a step up, I think he knows that there will be even more. Celtic is a massive football club. I mean, in many ways, they're a bigger football club than Tottenham. But the scrutiny on the English Premier League is entirely different to the Scottish Premier League. So there will be massive scrutiny on him and pressure on him, particularly if he doesn't get off to the right start. But with great credit to him, it was the press conference, I thought. He came across, as you say, quite warm, quite genuine, quite honest. I don't think he's one for mind games and coming out with stupid statements that he's not going to back up. So overall, it was a nice 7, 8 out of 10 press conference.
Blimey, not doing too bad from you for a good rating. 7, 8 out of 10. We hope that carries on. Christina, bringing you in. You know what? It was quite nice to actually have a press conference where there was a real lesser cryptic nature to it. I think it's fair to say that under both Jose and Antonio, never really got to the actual point sometimes of what the question was, because it was just so cryptic. It was so shackled. It was so templated. But I think there's one thing I got from that press conference today with Ange, and it was a real honesty, a real candid personality. And I think, quite frankly, that's a real welcome change from what we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think it's one that a lot of fans will get behind. And it's funny, I see obviously the club putting out the little snippets on the Twitter account from Ange, and obviously that's being still decimated by Enoch out at the moment. And again, everyone's open to their own views on how they feel about the football club, 100%. But you could just see there's fans that are warming to him already just by the way he comes across, his approach. How did you feel? What did you take away from that press conference for you?
I literally am loving this guy every day. I really am. There's something so, like, I'm just really warming to him. I don't know what it is, but it's like we're speaking to a friend. He just comes across so well during, you know, any interview that I've seen him in. He's very honest. He's, you know, he comes across very personal as well. And it's like, you can tell it means a lot to him. But I feel like he's got a boundary to that, which I really respect. I don't think he will, you know, he won't get too emotional with the players, I think. I feel like he's really respectful. And I think the fans, I think the team, the club itself, I think everyone's going to really start to like this guy. And I think we've been craving something like this for a long time, whereas we've had managers that are just too big. And I feel like we needed someone that is just a bit more grounded. And I think Ange is exactly the person that we needed. I sensed a little bit of worriedness from him today. I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like he knows that this is going to be a huge job to do. I think it's very refreshing to know, though, that we are out of Europa Cup games, because I think this is actually the perfect opportunity for him, considering he's not been in the Premier League at all. And I just think, I think this is really I'm going to take it as a good positive, but I was a bit worried because I felt like, he knows that there's a lot of work to be put into this team. But so far, he's coming across really, really nice. And he honestly feels like a family member, like to the Tottenham, to the Tottenham family already. So really good start so far.
Yeah, I mean, look,
I think there has been a change in perception from when he was appointed of what are we appointed as he's never going to be good enough, and whether that was a fair perception or not. I think there's definitely been he's brought some fans with him now, and some that would have been incredibly anti him 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago have warmed to him. He's still got work to do, but there's definitely been a shift in the suitability of him for the role. That's for sure.
I was going to point out as well, sorry, I actually think as well, looking at the players in videos that Tottenham have posted, like on Twitter and social media, you can tell there's been a change in their attitude as well. Like Bissouma, where's his character come from all of a sudden? Like, he looks like he's absolutely buzzing. And it's things like that we haven't seen. So, all of that is to be taken very positively. And it's a good sign, it's something that we haven't seen last season at all. So, yeah, let's hope that Ange is actually, changing the players' attitudes, mentality, whatever. It's good. It's all good.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to proclaim to be a body expert or a body language expert, because obviously when the players pulled up on the opening day of the training to come back, and Jason had his views in our WhatsApp group, he didn't shirk them at all. Pat, we joked on air the last time he was on about the fact that, you can't read too much into players coming in, what they're wearing, how they're getting out of the car, how they're entering the building. But I think what is very, very clear is that...
Are you suggesting one didn't look too happy to be there?
Well,
looks a bit reluctant to get out of the car.
More than one with you, isn't it? Well, it's more than one with you. We'll come on to more than the one with you. Don't worry, a bit later on. We know which one you're alluding to, and he came up in his press conference. But I think, as Christina references there does seem a bit more of a relaxed mood in the camp. And I think one thing, and again, I'm not going to be hypocritical, because when both Jose and Antonio were appointed, I was very, very, very positive, and I always try and be positive. And look, you've seen me lose it on here. A lot of you have seen me lose it on here after the Cup exits. Jason's probably been present for all of them as he bows his head there. I don't want to be like that for this upcoming season, but already the mood seems a lot more of a brighter place. Just the training ground, as Christina referenced to, Bissouma looks, a bit more comfortable now. He's had the scene to settle in. Pat, what was your takeaways from that press conference before we get right into it?
Yeah, I echo what Jason and Christina said. He spoke really well. Looks comfortable in front of the mic or behind the mic in front of the camera. The thing is, without being disrespectful, because I know English isn't everyone's first language, and I commend anyone that can speak 2, 3, or 4 languages, but it is refreshing when someone has English as their first language. So nothing's lost in translation. Nothing's been spun out of context. We don't open a paper tomorrow, or we don't get our phone out and we see someone's taken one line and twisted it. I mean, they kind of did that with the Tanguy and Ndombele thing. He said so many good things about Ndombele, and then he said, we're not sure if even Ndombele wants to be here. And that's what you saw as the headline. But because he's English and he speaks well, they can't really do that. And it's refreshing, because I don't want to, every time I'm worried what my manager's going to say, what's that going to affect, be like, how is Sky Sports going to spin it, as in Sky Sports News, how is this person going to take it? We can just get on with what we need to do, which is improve, on and off the pitch. And came across really well, spoke really well. He's an honest guy as well. I mean, as you guys know, I wasn't his biggest fan in terms of the appointment. He's here now. Definitely, I'll get behind him. He's winning over new people every time he speaks, but he was honest and even said, it's fair to say every position I've had has needed some sort of rebuild. Again, so he ticks the box. He understands what's going on. He understands the job he's walking into. He said he had a brilliant 2 years at Celtic, loved every minute of it, but it was challenging, especially at the start. So again, talking about Tottenham, how the challenges and coming into it. And then he goes, you can ask people to feel a certain way or dampen expectations, but what I've tried to do wherever I've been is allow fans to form their own opinion of what they see and rather what I say. And I thought that was brilliant, because exactly that, anyone can talk the talk, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what you do on that football pitch that will win the fans over and allow us to get behind you. Because, you know, we've had the great managers in terms of the CV has been fantastic. And like you said, Ricky, we've always been positive. Even when the football wasn't great, we were like, the bigger picture is that hopefully they'll win us a trophy and get that monkey off our back. The brand of football wasn't good. Ultimately, the results wasn't good. So there was nothing to get behind. If we can understand what Postecoglou is trying to do from the beginning, even if things aren't going great per se to begin with, because he's a new manager, new league, new players, it's going to need time. At least we can see what he's trying to do, and that will allow us to give him time. So very great. I mean, obviously we'll touch on a lot of it, but I was really impressed with it. Talks the talk, seems like a really relatable person as well. And even, you know, cracked a joke about, you know, something to do with the third question being about Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I had a joke with Jedinak, and we was going for 6th question because I thought you guys would care more about me. So he's even like throwing it back at them to say, like, calm down. Let's talk about me and what I'm doing here. So, no, I loved it, man. I thought it was a great presser. Obviously, you don't want to go too crazy because, like Jason said, it's early days and we want to see, you know, but all we can do is judge him off what's been said and how things are at the moment. And so far, so good, man. So I'm going to be fair, even though, like you guys know, I didn't want him. I thought we could do better. But at the end of the day, he's here now. I'm definitely going to get behind him. And if he's doing what he needs to do, then that's brilliant. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, Pat, you say that, because I think...
In fairness, he wouldn't have been in a good mood today. He'd have been in a foul mood because, you know, the Aussies got beat in the cricket yesterday. Absolutely.
Trust you to relate it back to the cricket.
He was at Lord's watching the cricket, and so yesterday he would have felt down in the dumps, like most Aussies did, thankfully. So, very good day yesterday for us.
Only you could squeeze that in there. Only you could do that. Look, there was some really nice quotes coming out of there. Just a couple of real headline ones that come out. He says, I want to bring success to this football club and put it where it deserves to be. There's an enormous challenge here. I love that. That's what attracted me most about the role. What a great challenge. What a great story if we can get it right. Pat alluded to the fact also about the... listen, there's been the quotes about Harry Kane, but also the trophy drought. He said, to be fair, that's why I'm here. That's what I love about it. All that is not here, and that's what I want to bring. I want to bring success to this football club. I want to bring back European football to this club. I want to be where it deserves to be. And, you know, again, you know, some really, really relatable comments that come out of the presser there, as Pat alluded to. You know, the brand of football, the style of football we're most certainly going to come on to. He was asked how he does feel being the Spurs manager, which he said really, really good. Delighted to be here. He's looking forward to the massive challenge ahead, which he's well aware of before taking that responsibility. Of course, looking forward to working with the players and the staff and being part of a really strong competition. He was asked in the opening questions about patience required from the fans. And I think, again, he answered this ever so well. He said, it's fair to say every position I've had needed some sort of rebuild. He had a brilliant couple of years at Celtic. But, you know, wherever he's been, he doesn't know where it's going to be a rocky start or a good start, but his hope and desire is that he's going to try and give supporters hope that we're going to embark on something special. And I think that's quite key, isn't it, Jace? You know, I think we've all said that if we can see a vision and a strategic pathway coming together, we're going to give it time. And, you know, the thing is that we've seen under Jose and Antonio, we had 2 serial winners that won everything. And there were times in their reign where we couldn't see a plan coming together, but we still got behind them because they had the trophies to show they could deliver it. But this guy is saying, look, I'm going to try and show you the plan. And he just wants to be backed. That's fair, isn't it?
I think he's, from a fan's perspective, I think he's got an easier job than the other 2 did. I think there's been a shift. Every fan wants something different for their football club. Don't get me. I mean, the 4 of us could write down the 10 things we want for our football club, and none of us would have the same 10. And we'd probably have very different views on 1 or 2 things, and we could argue about them all night. But I think overall for us as supporters, I think that when Poch lost a Champions League final and we'd lost, a League Cup final, a Champions League final, we'd finished runners-up in the league, I think there was an overriding demand from some supporters, look, we've done this. I don't care if the football's any good. We've got to start winning trophies. And that felt like the push was overall was that thing. And I think having had 2 serial winners, and they were serial winners, and Mourinho's won since he's left, and I have no doubt Conte will win. But I think we've now seen that pushing and pushing and pushing, I think that mood amongst supporters now is, do you know what? We want to go back to enjoying our football. Because if this push for a trophy looks like this, you know, and you're paying, Patrick, as you're saying, 88 quid for a ticket. Do you really want to go and watch us win 1-0 at home and defend with 10 men behind the ball against Fulham, just in the hope of winning a trophy? Do you know what? And we constantly we failed to win one, and so I think that style of football is slowly coming back as, do you know what? That's the key principle. And if we start enjoying our football again, then you can feel you will start to get behind the team again, and you will have a bit more patience, and you will respond to good things that they do. So I think that's been a shift amongst supporters, and I think he's coming in not for the overwhelming thing now, supporters. We have to win a trophy this year. It is, let's go back to enjoying our football. I'm fed up of going to White Hart Lane being miserable, being toxic atmosphere, the Levy in, Levy out part of that. And I'm not taking sides in that. That adds to the general feeling that drains you as you go to Tottenham. But they're entitled to be that way, don't get me wrong. So I think there is a refresh amongst some supporters to go back to let's do it our way. And so I think he will get an easier ride at the start, and he'll certainly need that. But you're right, it will depend a lot on what you do in that first year. But the one thing that patience has to come in, and it's not just transfer windows and things, but most of us probably think there's 15, 16 players at that football club not good enough. And whether you like it or not, 16 players are not going to leave in this transfer window. When we kick off that season, Eric Dyer or Ben Davis or Pierre Højbjerg or someone will be there that we don't like. But you've got to look at it as the overall thing. Do you know what? We've got 8 of the 15 out the door or something. And just understand you can't do it in one window. And where I'd probably difference with you, Rick, we don't know if we'll get 2 centre-backs yet. We want one now, but if he gets rid of Sanchez and he got rid of Dyer and he got rid of Tanganga and he got rid of somebody, do you think they'd go into this whole season with only 2 fit centre-backs? Of course they'll go and get another one at that stage. But I think you've got to look at it as the big game they play out. They can't just go and buy 15 players straight away without anyone going out the door. So calm yourself down and let's just have some patience in the window as well. But it is hard because we know how many times the club has let us down in transfer windows. I know that. Yeah.
Just to come back on that point, as you say about they might go and buy another centre-back. I've got no doubt they might go and buy another centre-back. The problem it will be bringing Clement Longley back and not bringing either one of Tapsoba or Mickey van der Ven. But I just want to make that point that, look, again, I'm all for, bringing players in, but hopefully you're the same as me, Jay. They've got to be good enough. There's no point otherwise. There's no point. Absolutely no point.
Listen, I don't think any club concludes their transfer business by July the 10th.
They don't. You're absolutely spot on. They don't. So I will, as promised, I've said to you personally, I will reserve judgment. I'll try my best to anyway. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio, where you're going to hear the first part of 3 from our new head coach, Ange Postecoglou, who spoke to the media for the first time, of course, on the Monday afternoon. For our watching audience here, we've got over 1,000 plus of you watchers across all of our platforms. Again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. It's fair to say we've got a lot planned in summer, lots of pre-season games. Jason actually over in Bangkok for one of them as things stands, and we'll be asking Jason all about that towards the end of the show. Looking forward for him, I'm sure, going back to the promised land, the spiritual land for him. I know he loves it absolutely over there. Guys, I am going to turn attention to this now. Jason's going to, I'm sure, turn the lights off or bow his head in shame. Harry Kane was the third question, which Pat alluded to as part of that press conference. And Christina, I'll start with you, because what we don't want to do is have this Harry Kane situation derail the whole show like it might derail Tottenham Hotspur's summer. So the first question asked by one of our own, I think it was Bridgie actually who asked the question. He said, do you have to keep Harry Kane? So Postecoglou made that joke, as Pat alluded to. Question 3 was Harry. We were running a poll with the coaches, or a poll. I think Millie Jesnak won, actually. I had to over 6, but I thought you cared about me. In terms of the squad, I think it's fair to say the reason I'm here is because the club is seeking a change of direction, a change in the way things are going to be done. And that usually means a change in personnel, players and staff. And in that context, my role right at the minute is to deal with what's in front of me, the certainties that I have, knowing that there are going to be many uncertainties, and trying to tick one off by one of the path for us to follow. He was asked in your conversation with Harry Kane, is that what it's about in terms of whether you're trying to convince him to stay? And I really like this answer from him, Christina. He said, I don't think it's my role to sit down and treat people in a manner because of their circumstances. I'm really big on treating everyone the same. And Harry already entrenched himself in the history of the football club. He's a very important part. He's one of the premier strikers in the world, and I want him to be involved. My conversation with him will be about how we can make this club successful. And I've got no doubts that's also what he wants as well. So what did you take away from that, Christina, the way he dealt with the Harry Kane question? Because I was really, really impressed with it, only on the basis that Nuno got the same question in 2021, which is mind-boggling that we're in this situation yet again. But I was really impressed with the way Postecoglou handled the Harry Kane question. What did you make of it?
Oh, do you know what? When every journalist was mentioning Harry Kane, I just wanted to turn it off. It's just, I'm quite bored of that whole situation, if I'm completely honest. But he handled it so well, very respectful as well. It's just going on. Like, is this going to be a yearly thing? Like, well, it has been a yearly thing. That's the thing, and it's a distraction to me. Like, we should be focusing on the whole team. It's just all the time we have to base it on Harry Kane. And in my honest opinion now, what we should do is we should just give Kane the wage that he wants. If he says yes, fantastic. If he says no, then sell him. If we need to do this like right now, that's the thing. We need to take action on this right now. We can't be spending this whole time talking about it, having Sky Sports doing all of these articles about him going or not, whatever. It really does my nut in. But I just really feel like this is just a big cloud over Tottenham at the moment, and it's always about Harry Kane. Like, just sort it out now. That's honestly what I think we should do, and we need to take action on who is going to replace him. That's why we need to get this done early. But it's just so annoying because there's like all this positivity with Ange, and how, just everything with what he's bringing in, what he wants to do to the team. But everyone just seems to want to focus on the negative when it comes to Harry Kane. So yeah, I think he handled it absolutely brilliantly with how he answered those questions. I get it that journalists do have to do it, but guys, it's so boring. It's so I'm just kind of done with the Harry Kane thing. But yeah.
all I would say on the Kane thing is, because of his answer, and I had no problem with his answer, incidentally, but that will be the narrative tomorrow. Ange refuses to rule out Kane sale. But that's the narrative they wanted. So, and do you know what? Even if he'd have said he will still be here, it will still come up the very next press conference. Have they made another bid?
Yep.
And you see this with the media. It doesn't matter who the player is when they're obsessed with a player moving from one club to another. And we've had it with lots of players in the past. It is a constant drive, and he will be asked it. And it doesn't matter what his answer will be until Kane signs a contract.
Exactly.
Then that question, I don't think Ange can answer the question. The only person that can answer it is Kane by signing or publicly coming out saying, I will still be here. So, whatever Ange says, Sky Germany say, oh, Bayern are going to do this. They're going to give another couple of free eggs into this, and they're going to do that. And so that's what gets reported. I don't think Ange can when I saw fans saying the club should come out and say it, it doesn't matter to the media. They know what the story they want to push on the back pages, and it is boring as hell.
It is. I mean, Pat, to bring you in, he was asked the question if he's been sought any assurances on Kane's future from the club. And he said, I haven't had any assurances, and I wouldn't expect any assurances, because when you're dealing with these kind of things, you're never dealing with definites or certainties in anything in life. That's just my nature. I just kind of go along and try to concentrate on things that I know right now. What I know right now is Harry is part of this squad, and he's looking forward to coming back to training, which we understand will be Wednesday, and being amongst these players and starting to work together. What do you think, Pat, at the moment, reading between the lines of the situation? Kane is expected to return to training on Wednesday. Spurs then subsequently go off on their pre-season tour to Perth, Australia, with the rest of the squad on Friday. Are we going to have this all summer, Pat, with Kane?
Yes, unfortunately. The thing is, with all due respect to Harry Kane, there's only one guy that can shut this down, and that's Harry Kane. Like John is saying, Christina mentioned about the wages, giving the wage that he wants. I think it's not really about the wage for Harry Kane. I mean, allegedly there's a new bumper offer on the table already. I think Kane wants assurances that the team is going to compete. He's obviously almost 30 years old, one of the best players in the world. If he stays at Tottenham, he wants assurances that we will be able to basically match his ambition. He said this 2 or 3 years ago, and nothing's changed. Yeah, we brought in Conte, but the actual football didn't really progress. We finished 4th, didn't really push on, and now we are obviously where we are. So I don't think it's about the wage. You know, he's a multi-millionaire. He's got untold amounts of money. That's not the issue for Harry Kane. It's whether the team can match his ambition. Can he see himself honestly winning stuff here? Only Kane will know. Realistically, like Jason was saying, and like I honestly believe, if Harry Kane wanted to shut this down, he could. When there was rumours of Son leaving, when we was down at our worst under Nuno, and Son was like literally sought after by the whole world, only had 1 year left on his deal, Son didn't even know what kind of Tottenham was going to take shape or what was going to happen. He signed a new deal, and it ended all of it just like that. This summer, when he was linked to going to Saudi Arabia, what did he do? He came out the next day and said, I'm staying at Tottenham. I've got unfinished business. So we all say this, leave us alone, stop going on about Harry Kane. But ultimately, if Harry Kane wanted to shut this down, he could. So we're at his mercy. It's almost like now, I hate to say it, but Harry Kane it feels like he feels he's bigger than the club. And when it gets to this stage, we're in trouble because we're then at his mercy. So it's a tricky one. Obviously, I love Harry Kane. Like I said a couple of months ago, he's the best player I've ever seen in the Tottenham jersey. I believe he's that good. I think he's one of the best players in the world, if not the best striker in the world. Some people say I'm biased because I'm a Spurs fan, but I honestly think he's better than Haaland in terms of everything he offers to you. And no striker in the world is better. If you're better than Haaland, for me, you're number one. But it does annoy me that he just doesn't either commit. I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it, either fuck off or sign a new contract. And I don't want to be rude because I love Harry Kane, but with all of this going on, everything that is happening, it's just muddied the waters and everything else because we're just in this limbo. Will he leave? Won't he leave? And then throughout the whole summer transfer window, we're going to have this stuff where, Man United might put in a bid to test Tottenham's resolve. Bayern Munich might up their bid to test Tottenham. And we're just stuck on this back foot of not knowing. And like Christina said, then if it gets to the last, I know Christina didn't say this per se, but she did say in terms of if it gets to the last week or two and we then think that someone's going to put a big bid in for Harry Kane, we're struggling because what striker are we going to get within 1 or 2 weeks left in the window? We're going to have to pay over the odds. Will someone really want to come? And excuse my French, we're fucked. So it just needs to be sorted one way or another. Yeah. And only Harry Kane can actually do that.
Pat, you know what? I say this most politely. Well, I've still got a few years on you, so I've seen the course of what Spurs have done with big players that have ended up really overshadowing the summer of either a present manager or one that's incoming. And even for our younger viewers, they've seen the Bales, the Berbatovs, the Keanes, that Modric's that have ultimately been going around the summer looking to leave. It doesn't happen, or it does happen, and Spurs are left in a limbo where it completely ruins the start to a season. We've seen that a lot at Tottenham under AVB. I remember it massively, completely and utterly tearing apart the start to a season. People laugh at me when I say this about there being a deadline on a situation. But I'm really, really concerned that for all the positivity that comes out today, and I want this to be a positive show, the manager spoke really, really well. We want to be behind him. But I am concerned that as this speculation intensifies and carries on, that it is going to derail what could be a really, really good start to a season for Tottenham. Of course, we've got a tough start. We know we've got a tough start. Ange said himself, it's a tough start. He's a man that's known for not having the greatest of starts to a season. Look, he won 3 out of his opening 8 at Celtic and crushed out the Champions League. His feet are firmly on the ground that it's going to be a difficult start. This is the last thing we need on top of this. So do you, in your heart of hearts, Pat, you expect to run right up until deadline day, Pat?
Yeah, unless Harry Kane comes out and says, listen, I'm staying here.
Which you don't think will happen, Pat? Which you don't think will happen?
I don't, because ultimately I think that Harry Kane is going to slyly entertain interest from other suitors to see what comes out. And if a real bid comes in, not those ridiculous 60 million for Harry Kane. When Mason Mount and Kai Havertz are going for 60 odd plus and you're offering 68 million, it's an actual insult. Like, you're wasting all of our time.
It's not even his left boot, is it? Is it even his left boot for that, Christ? It's ridiculous.
But say, for example, Bayern Munich turned around tomorrow, or PSG, or whoever, and put in £100 million, an actual proper bid, then Harry Kane will probably have a conversation and say, listen, you know, I don't want to do this, but what are you guys saying? So I do think unless he shuts it down, this will linger on. And I hate to say,
Right.
I don't want it to be the case. Because
Yeah.
like you said, we don't want this to overshadow the good work that is going on. But
No.
Kane is the only guy that can ultimately shut it down. And I don't think he would want to, because he also wants to see what's out there.
Yeah.
So I understand it from both sides. I really do. When you're as good as Harry Kane is, and for the last 2 or 3 years, the team hasn't really matched his ambition, other than say Heung-min Son, when Dejan Kulusevski and my mind's gone blank, the guy who's just done his Rodrigo Bentancur. Sorry.
Bentancur, yeah.
When those guys come in January, we had a fantastic end to the season, and I really thought we was going to push on. We didn't for whatever reason, and yeah, finishing 8th isn't a good look. Let's be honest, but Harry Kane is also part of the team, and when we've crashed out in Champions League games or the Cup, he's ultimately played in those games and played the whole 90 minutes. So he's not faultless, but I understand it from both sides. That's really what I'm trying to say. But I also hate the fact that we're essentially now becoming a Harry Kane team, and it's will he, won't he, when we're bigger than just Harry Kane.
Also, and it's also for the fear of what Jason said earlier, it's also becoming a Harry Kane show week upon week. You know, we've spoken about 10, 15 minutes of Harry, and we're no close to knowing what the situation is.
But there's also the problem, like if I'm working for the club, right, and we know how the media works and things, and let's say we had the conversation with Kane, and he says, "Look, I wanted to go. I'd sooner go." And Bayern make an offer, and you sit and say to Bayern, whatever the price is in your mind, 80 million, 100 million, or whatever. If I'm working for the club, that's how I'd do it. And if Bayern said, "Okay, if you want 100, we'll give you 100." If I'm at the club, I'm saying, right, well, don't release that publicly. You're going to bid 100. We want to go and replace Kane before that bid comes in. But they don't have to go and tell the whole world, you know, everything that's happening before it happens, just to give clarity.
But they are.
I know we want it, but if I'm in the club, I'm saying it's the same way as I've always talked about injuries, isn't it? I wouldn't even talk about injuries. Why do we need to know Bentancur's 8 months away or 6 months away? It doesn't affect the team sheet tomorrow. No. So it's just, he's working back to fitness. But but the outside that fans and the media want is, when's he coming back to training? So I just think there's a difference with when you're within the club, and the conversations within the club will be known by Daniel Levy will know what's happening. Kane will know what's happening. Kane's brother will know what's happening. Ange, despite what he said today, will know what's happening. They would have said to Ange, well, if he does go this summer, it's got to be X pounds. But Ange can't come out in his press conference today and say, yes, I did speak to Daniel, and he's told me that if we get an offer of 85 million, then we'll sell him. He can't say that. So as much as it's frustrating for us not to, and we want the club to shut it down, there would be genuine reasons why it's not in the club's interest to shut it down. That's the problem that you're up against.
The reality is, Jace, Bayern are leaking these bids to the media. And again, and people won't like me for saying this. Some people won't like me for saying this. Obviously, Harry Kane, obviously part of him might want to go. Otherwise, Bayern would not keep on bidding for him. So whether people like that or not, there's an interest of Kane to go to Bayern Munich. And, you know, you have said there, Pat, the only way this can end is with Harry Kane shutting it down. There are reports, Jace, that Kane this time around will not go on strike if he doesn't get the move. But either way, Jace, where this situation is, it is damaging the summer, however you dress this up with this speculation. So what do you expect to happen, Jace, in conclusion of this situation? What do you expect?
75% sure he kicks off the season at Tottenham.
In that starting 11 against Brentford on the opening day, in your opinion?
Well, not just then, but he kicks off the game on the 1st of September. Let's say.
1st of September. He'll be there, right?
Forget the first game of the season. That he'll be there at the end of the window. And I think, and if I'm honest, if I'm Kane's agent, I'd be saying to him, Harry, don't sign. Let's see what happens with Tottenham this year. You know full well, H, that if we get to March and if things are going well, Tottenham will still want you to sign a contract in March, just like they do now. So you haven't actually got a rush to put pen on the paper for Tottenham. If I'm Kane's agent, and again, that's frustrating for us as supporters, but I wouldn't be letting him sign a contract. I'd be saying, let's get to the end. Let's see what offers are there. If Tottenham are 14th come December the 31st, and you look at them and you think, well, they're definitely not going to be in the Champions League, and they've been knocked out of the Carabao Cup. So what's the point of signing? But if you get to December the 31st or January the 15th and they're in a Carabao Cup final and they're currently third in the table, you might have a different conversation. So don't have the conversation now that you can wait until have that conversation then. So, from my point of view, I see it from Kane's agent side or his brother's side. I see it from the club side. I see it from the fan side. There's no right way or wrong way, but it will go on. The only person that can end it is Kane signing that contract.
Yeah. I mean, this is also the thing as coming over to you, Christina, to close it on Harry Kane, because we have to close it somewhere. And the fact is that in 12 months' time, Harry's got all the power. He can go wherever he chooses to go. And believe me, I don't think his value will diminish that much in the base of the one season. Even if Harry Kane does not score 30 goals in this upcoming season, for me, Harry Kane will still be sorted after in the market, because look what he's done in the last 5-10 seasons, consistently, season after season after season after season. So my mindset is, why not give it a chance? You've been under Conte, you've been under Mourinho, two managers that have arguably won everything, but you're going back to playing a brand of football that you really enjoyed under Maurizio Pochettino to some degree. We hope Ange will be even better. We hope we'll even be even more successful. I'm sorry for bringing that guy's name up at the moment. I appreciate he's not everyone's flavour of the year, of the month, of the week, of the day. You choose what it is. But would you, Christina, not be thinking, why not wait 12 months? He's got the power in his own hands. And if he really, really wants to hurt Daniel Levy, and I mean really hurt him, I'm talking about from a footballing business perspective, he can go and join whoever he wants to join in 12 months' time, and Tottenham cannot do a thing about it. And he can also get a massive, massive signing on fee to go with it.
But does that not worry you guys a little bit? The fact that we can sell him, the fact that we can sell him to Bayern Munich, who's not in the Premier League, obviously, or if he goes free and goes to a club where we might not like.
I tell you why, Christina, I don't care on this very quickly.
He won't go there, Christina. He won't go there.
I tell you why.
My fear is just Chelsea right now because of who is managing at that club right now.
I tell you what, the reason why
I am 100% certain, even on a free transfer, he does not go to Chelsea. No way.
I just think on this point quickly is that, ultimately for Harry, as I said, the power goes in his hands in 12 months' time. And I just look at the situation with Spurs at the moment. And Harry strikes me as someone that does care about his legacy. Just to come on to that point with Chelsea, I do think generally, he wants to win trophies. I think he would love to win them at Tottenham, but I think he obviously understands that's going to be very, very difficult right now, given the conditions and the teams around us of what everybody else is building, because in reality, the Premier League in itself is a Super League. We have to say that. The Premier League in itself is a Super League. So it's going to be very, very hard to achieve what he wants to at Tottenham. But I mean, ultimately, the point for me with Harry is that, look, in 12 months' time, the power goes in his hands. He can go wherever he wishes to go. I just think, for him, get his head down, focus on Spurs, and then see what his next 12 months take him. I don't see the benefit right now of going to Bayern Munich as the only team on the table.
The only bit I've always disagreed with this trophy argument, and we saw it with Keane and Berbatov. Let's say Tottenham win the Carabao Cup on 28th of February, right? Do you think on March the 1st, Kane then signs a 5-year extension? Or is the thought is, I've won a trophy here. I've finally done what everyone wanted me to do. Now let me go and do what I want to do.
It's so hard.
He deserves to have that trophy.
We've seen it with Declan Rice. He's won a trophy, but it hasn't kept him at West Ham at all. Off they go. And we saw it with Keane and Berbatov. So, this thing of you've got to win a trophy. As soon as he wins it, we know if he won the Carabao Cup, it's the wrong trophy. Yeah, but big players don't want to win the Carabao. They want to win the Champions League and the Premier League. That all the narrative will change is just to that. And he may well consider, I've done what I want. I've got that trophy. I can now leave content that I've completed the thing. Probably this year he's going to be a captain. So he'll have lifted the trophy, not just won it, he'll have lifted it. He'll be the picture on for the next 20 years with the trophy in his hands. Won't be Hugo probably. And therefore it's time to move on. But even more so, why you'd be a one-club man because you won a trophy. If you took the 80 million quid for him now, and you've got 80 million quid, or do you leave it and think, okay, we'll lose the 80 million quid, but with him, we're more likely to get Champions League money next year, which will give you the 80 million quid. So, what you get from one hand, you're losing from the other.
the only point I was going to say, Christina, to let you come back on is you made a point of maybe selling him for the money. Number one, I don't really care about the money because it's not my money. And maybe it's bad me saying that. And number two, if I'm being honest with you, I do not trust Tottenham in terms of recruitment at the moment to go and spend that money wisely. Because I can't think of anybody out there for me that could come in and adequately replace Harry Kane with 30 goals. I have got my reservations about Richarlison. However, look, it's the first season. I love to be proved wrong. I think if we're getting the Richarlison of Brazil, it's a different subject. But I think the club side of Richarlison, I'm just not sure. And I want to be proven wrong. I think the thing for me is that the 30 goals for me are more valuable than the 100 million. That's just my opinion. I think the 30 goals for Tottenham are more valuable than, again, the 100 million. Christine, let's close with you on Harry Kane. What do you expect to happen?
I mean, I said this actually before on a podcast where if we did not have Harry Kane last season, can you actually imagine where we would be on that table? That's just how important I think he is. But it's such a tough decision, like, for him. I do get it, but I just feel like us fans need to remember this is football. Players come and go. I was like this when Bale left. I was honestly so heartbroken. I thought we're never going to find a player like Bale ever again. And then came along Kane. So it's just one of those things where we just got to let go sometimes. And a player will, like Kane, come to Spurs again at some point, you know. And I feel like we get so emotionally involved, Tottenham fans especially. We are so emotionally attached to that club. I don't care what anyone says. We are literally the worst at it for some reason. But we just got to remember to ourselves, like, we will find someone else that will take over Kane. Exactly. And hopefully someone like Ange will build that for us, because I'm hoping to believe it. Of course, it's such early days. It hasn't even started. You know, nothing's been, you know, we haven't seen anything yet. But he has given us a great start so far. I also wanted to mention it just came out recently because I watch this YouTube a lot. It's called Hot Ones. And they've just announced that Harry Kane's actually going to be on there. And the guy, Sean Evans, is absolutely brilliant at doing interviews. So it'll be really interesting to see actually what he says in that interview. So just
I hope it's better than Gary Neville on a golf course.
It's not on a golf course, is it?
No. Honestly, this guy, I can't rate how highly this guy, Sean Davis, he honestly is so... Okay. Sean Davis, honestly, Hot Ones, but give it a go and watch it with Harry Kane. I think it comes out on Thursday, so it'll be really interesting to see.
Hot Ones? What's it about?
It's the one where they have hot.
Sounds
they
like
literally eat
it's on
hot wings. No, they literally. They literally eat hot wings,
hours, is it? Jeez,
and it gets hotter and hotter. They've had people like Gordon Ramsay. They just had Lewis Capaldi do it. It's
so
honestly
like chili sauces and stuff like that, and you got to eat it. And
a bit of chili sauce. I'm in for that.
Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant, this show. It's such a good idea. But yeah, give it a watch on Thursday. Harry Kane's going to be on there.
There you go.
It's American as well.
From Harry Kane to hot chili sauce. No one tells you last one on Spurs don't take you anywhere you want to go, right?
I think my final thing on Kane is I hope he stays. I don't fear him leaving. Not now. And I'm probably different to Christina. Tottenham Hotspur will be nowhere near a relegation side without Harry Kane. Nowhere near it.
Okay. Well, listen, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. There's still over 1,000 of you plus watching us live. Again, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last One on Spurs. We're joined by Jason McGovern, pending for Bangkok, and also joined by the wonderful Patrick Tyrant back on Last One on Spurs, and Christina Zandes. We were guiding you through Ange Postecoglou's opening press conference as Tottenham Hotspur head coach. But as Harry Kane has done many, many times during Spurs' summers, it's been derailed once again. So we shall see where Harry Kane's future does take us. We'll dip in a bit later where we are with Spurs and the transfer window. Jason will probably go back off now, I've said that. And
I've got me chili sauce.
Now all we need is interview. We could definitely wait for the interview, that's for sure. He was asked a question, Ange Postecoglou, that if presumption Harry does stay, if he does become the new captain, with obviously Hugo Lloris set to leave the club. And he said for him, it's not even at the forefront of his mind. What's at the forefront of his mind is trying to establish where we want to go as a football club and trying to be clear as people as I can about that and me and all kinds of things. Before I start thinking that kind of detail right now, I'm going to miss the opportunity to establish some really strong fundamentals of where I want us to be. And I think it's really interesting. He was asked the question, he did any research before taking the job. And he said, look, you try and understand as much as you can do with regards to the club itself and his own coaching journey. But I think what's very, very clear is that he's already had a understanding of what, as fans, we want to see in terms of a brand of football. Now, look, I've got to be able to say this, that the brand of football doesn't matter to every single fan. You know, I know Jason is massively, massively, massively important to him. The club play with an exciting brand of football that gets you off your seat week upon week. I know some fans that couldn't really care less if you eke out a 1-0 win and Spurs go and win 1-0 every single week for 38 games and go and win a league, whether that be under Conte or Mourinho. But I think for match-going fans that are being asked to pay the highest season ticket prices, not only just in the Premier League, but across Europe. And then when you add to that as well, the price hike for the match day fans going as well, I think that is really, really important, that you're going to see a product that you can really get behind and that you can really attune with, you know, game by game. And, you know, he's making that promise that ultimately coming over to you, Pat, to begin with, you know, for fans that are overseas and watch Spurs late at night, you're going to want to stay up for the brand of football. You know, he doesn't want to go too much detail in terms of what we can expect. He said, look, I don't want to limit in relation to what we're going to do, but hopefully it's a successful brand of football. We want to be an aggressive team, a dominant team, a team who takes the game to every opposition home and away. And I think for me, the history of this football club kind of suggests that is the best fit for it. Having said that, it doesn't mean that is the only way you can be successful, because that is the way we'll be trying to do it. And it is refreshing, Pat, to hear a manager that is ultimately going to care more about what we're doing rather than the opposition, right?
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. I mean, so many times under the last two managers, they've set up to essentially stop or nullify the attack of the other team and then try and nick something. Where now let's take the game to obviously proceed with caution. You can't go gung-ho against, you know, Man City or go toe-to-toe with Liverpool at Anfield, for example. But typically, like Jason was saying earlier, we don't want to be sitting 10 men behind the ball against Fulham or Nottingham Forest for 85 minutes and scraping or hanging on for dear life. You want to see intent. You want to see an attacking brand of football. You want to see intelligence, patterns of play, good movement. You know, we've got Vicario in now as well, so he's a ball-playing goalkeeper. Hopefully we get centre-backs who are comfortable on the ball and can defend, and we see something that we haven't seen in the last couple of years. What Postecoglou is saying is very impressive, and obviously it will strike a chord with Tottenham fans. But also, I was thinking when he was saying all of this today, like especially with the price hike, if Daniel Levy doesn't back him, then it's the same old same. So, you know, you've increased match day tickets, you've got a manager who plays a brand of football. You need to give him the players so he can allow himself to do that. And obviously we can move at that table. So, you know, we've done okay for what it is in terms of the transfer window and the players in, but Jesus Christ, we need some centre-backs. And also, I think we still need a 1 or 2 midfielders like you alluded to, Vicky. And I think we could also do with another attacking player. If you want to give the fans what they want and give us the tools so that Ange can do his job, at the moment we're lacking. So, you know, it's all well and good having a manager say all the right things, but if he's not given the tools, then ultimately in 4 or 5 months, when he's coming out and they're asking him what's gone wrong, he'll just say, I wasn't given this, I wasn't given that, and we're back to square one with what happened with Jose and Conte. So hopefully we've learned our mistakes across all panels of the board in terms of how we do things. According to what they're saying, the recruitment has changed. We're now looking at data and all of that as well as players. So be smart, be shrewd. But when I see stuff when it's almost like we're penny pinching instead of just going for who we believe is the best fit for that position, I still question what's going on, because we're not a club that should be, of course you don't want to go crazy and overspend, but we're not someone that needs to proceed with caution. We've been in the stadium for 2 or 3 years now, post-COVID. You know, the stadium generates so much money outside of just football. So when I see things where we're penny pinching and it's a couple of million, I'm like, what's going on? When are we actually going to show the intent that other clubs do that are meant to be on our level and just get the players in that we need to strengthen ourselves? So what Postecoglou's saying is very positive and sounds good, but at the moment, as it stands, this team isn't built to play his brand of football. That's how I feel.
It's interesting, Pat, you say that.
The penny pinching did work, didn't it, on Maddison and Kulusevski? You know, fans wanted us to pay 35 for Kulusevski and 50 for Maddison, which is 85, but we got them for what? 55.
Mm.
So there's an
but
extra
that's
30 million.
really good if we then use that
we
money.
will all demand the 30 million on the centre back, but if we'd have paid that, we wouldn't have that 30 million on the centre back. So it does work. There is a reason you do it.
I'm with Pat. I'm a little bit
Yeah.
like that because I mean, I think again for me, it really depends on who the centre backs are going to be. If
Yeah.
you're giving me Clement Longley,
Yeah.
then I don't really care if they penny
No, I
pinch
agree with
Maddison
that.
or Kulusevski. You know, again, I make this point. For me, they should be going all out for both Tapsoba and for
100%.
Mickey van der Ven. I don't
100%.
understand why it can only be one. Jason, you make the point. You say to me, Ricky, wait, it might be both of them. I don't think so. I can't see it. I would love
You
to
were
be wrong.
throwing a wobbler the other day that West Ham had signed, Rice had signed for West Ham, and Tottenham have done nothing. And within 2 days later, we got Maddison.
Yeah, I know. Well, you've told me we've signed 5
There
now,
you
so I've
go.
had to throw Porro in there, who's triggered the release clause, and I've thrown Kulusevski in there as an obligation to buy just to keep you happy. So there you go. I've had to now say it's 5 on the transfer show just for you.
I think we've bought more than anyone.
It's free. We don't include those. We include new players, not like obligations triggered. Nah, we can't do that.
It's
It's
free.
free.
No. You can see why I don't do transfer shows a bit. You can see why I don't do transfer shows a bit bloody on here. You see how far I'm getting out. Christian, let's go back. Let's go back to the football. He was asked the question, Postecoglou, if it will take time for him to get his football across to the players. He said, look, I don't know, because other people have said that because it is wherever I've been, it varies. It takes longer sometimes, but again, we can start the season flying. I hope so. It depends on how the players adapt to it. And it's not the way we play, it's the way we train. We behave the way we talk. We have put together a coaching staff together, and we are working as a unit. And do you know what I really liked? There was this a message to the players in terms of what he wanted to transcend to them. He said, look, just be open-minded and not be too much bugged down and expecting all the history, just to understand that we will be different. Not because I'm better or anything, but because I'm different to the other managers and I'll do things my way. I think that's really, really great to hear. He said the more people buy to that, the more we'll get results quicker. Where there's that resistance, it will just slow down the whole process. But I will make it clear that we won't change the process. It won't change me. It might just derail it for a little bit. The quicker we jump on the train, I think he's been listening to Lee McQueen, we will get there and again allowing ourselves people to be themselves. He's been watching the Crazy Train, hasn't he? He's been watching the bloody Crazy Train. I tell you what, wait till it comes back on. Look, I think that's a great thing. This is a guy that, Christina, he's not going to allow other players to derail what he's trying to do. You either buy into the brand of football or I think you're going to be off. Is that how you read that, viewed that from Postecoglou?
It came across very like, how do I explain it? Is the word organic a good one? It's like, I've said this again before, like plenty of times on the pods. I wanted a manager that comes in, looks at the players individually and sets them up with what their strengths are and puts them in a position of what he knows that they can do. And I feel that's exactly what Ange is going to do. And the fact as well, this guy has patience. We actually have a manager that has patience now. Big ones like, Jose and Conte, I feel like they just literally wanted to come in here and just go straight in there with the actions of what they felt was best, from their old tactical ways. Whereas Ange, I feel like he's literally just going to go, exactly how he sees the players as they are. So to me, I just feel like with the training videos as well, we're passing the ball like quick. I don't know. I saw this video on Tottenham the other day. We were just playing quick football, and it was just like I haven't seen this in Spurs like for ages. It was I thought
someone sped it up to times 10 on the frequency.
Literally, like when have we seen that in so long? Tottenham playing quick football like that. It was although it's like the most simple thing that you should be watching. To me, it was mind blowing to watch Tottenham be doing, playing that kind of football. So that's why I'm starting to have a little bit of hope with this right now. Yeah. And I want to be like you said, Ricky, let's try and be positive about this. I think it's a brilliant start. This is a great start of what we are seeing so far. There is still plenty of time to improve. Don't get me wrong. We've got some, hopefully I'm really praying that we get this Mickey guy, because I honestly feel like he is just, to me, he's like a little Jan Vertonghen. And the fact that he's young means that we've got plenty of time for improvement. And I'm really hoping that we get this guy, because I think he's brilliant. I've been watching loads of videos on him. So, Ndombele, I won't mention that, but you know, if he sees that, then okay, fair enough. But I'm not going to mention Ndombele. I've had my opinion on him. But yeah, I think
if you ain't going to mention him, Jay's not going to mention him. Pat will have to get him.
Pat, you can take over on that then.
I'm glad someone will take him. We are going to come on to him shortly. He was asked the question, come over to you, Pat, how big a step up will the Premier League be? And he said, look, I don't know. He's had the same sort of questions asked when he moved to the SPL. Of course, he did a fine job there. He won the treble. But I thought what was really, really interesting is this one, Pat, you actually alluded to in your opening piece, when he was asked, what did you make of some of the fans' reaction to the appointment when some of them taken to social media to say they weren't happy? And I think, again, this is quite an interesting question because I think a lot of the fans, everyone made their judgment on Postecoglou based on the fact that I think for a lot of the summer, Spurs were being linked to Pochettino. Sorry to say that for some. Nagelsmann, of course, was up there as well. You had Luis Enrique in the picture. So there again was almost that talk of yet there being another big name manager in the most politest way I say that. And then as those months dwindled on and Nagelsmann and Tottenham decided to refute any claim that they were going to work together or he was going to become the next manager, Postecoglou's name got thrown in at a time where I think there was a lot of negativity surrounding the managerial search. And maybe unfairly for him, he seemed to take a lot of slack for that. And I think what's happened is subsequently since he's got the job, many have done their research. Many have seen many podcasts and how they've come across and the way he talks and the way he is as a person. And ultimately, I think everyone's really buying into this man because he isn't the same as a Mourinho and Conte. And just in terms of his approach, his attitude, he wants to be here. He's come across authentic. And I think the most important thing I've always said about whoever the manager is next to Tottenham, they have to want to be here. And I just saw already from that opening 30 minutes of that interview, there's a man that's excited to be here. And that's all I wanted. I wanted someone that was going to be here, relish the challenge, relish the opportunity. And he said, look, I've never taken social media as a barometer of me as a person. I hate to think anyone does. There's more to life than just who we are. Unless you've polled actually every Spurs fan in the world and you've come out with a defining majority that don't want me here, I suggest that's what comes out of social media. And I think he's absolutely spot on. He went on to say that supporters have every right with every appointment to reserve their judgment. Absolutely, why not? And I thought, again, such a real authentic, lovely remark there from him, because I can guarantee you if that was Conte and Mourinho, or it felt like that, they would bloody care if the players wouldn't want them there. So this man is humbled. He comes across as being, look, take him for what he is. Let him prove to you that he can do the job. How did you take those remarks, Pat, from that social media question that got put to him?
Yeah, very refreshing, honest, and he understands how we feel, because I was one of those fans that wasn't really excited. Well, I say excited, I'll be lying. I wasn't happy about the appointment. You guys know.
He was on the floor at one point. I had to bring you back up.
So, I mean, like you said, we were linked to all these managers who we thought would be better fits. Probably they've honed their trade in tougher leagues. We've seen them on the bigger stage perform well. Even after a while, I was on the BBC show with a Dutch journalist who was singing Arne Slot's praises, saying how fantastic he would be for us, great fit. And then all of a sudden, he then signed a contract extension. So every person we was linked to, for whatever reason, didn't work out. Postecoglou was always kind of on the fringes. And then as things intensified, he's definitely, if we're all being honest, he wasn't any of our first choices. But maybe he is the right guy to do the job. And everything he said so far, I mean, I really respect it because he's honest. And like you said, he's not ducking any questions, Ricky. He's not taking offense to it. He's actually taking it on, head on and saying, yeah, I can understand why fans may not have understood or may not be happy, but I'm going to show them this. And everywhere I've been, I've had to prove myself. I've had to step in, to a club that essentially was in turmoil, execute my brand of football, win fans over. And essentially, like I said earlier, these are all the things that we're going through now. So you can kind of take comfort in the fact that he's been here before. It's not a new feeling for him. It's not a new sensation. Obviously, the league is different, so he's going to take time to adjust. But like you said, Ricky, his first 8 games at Celtic were a bit patchy. He only won 3 of them. But the fans gave him that time and patience because they could see what he was trying to do. So, it was refreshing what he said. And he also said something, this was a quote that actually caught my attention. He goes, "My hope and my desire and what I'm trying to do is give our supporters hope and belief that we're going to embark on something special." So I was like, oh, okay. I was actually sitting up when he said that. I was like, yeah, this guy's saying all the right things. Got a great personality, comes across well, answers questions, doesn't mince his words, doesn't give a PC or politician's answer. He answers things straight on. And we're gonna have to see. Obviously, talk is cheap per se. Like, yeah, you got to talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. But he's also said that as well. He said, judge me on the football. I understand some fans will want to see results and see on the pitch. And also, we've heard such good things about players coming out and saying that he was a brilliant, man manager. He knows how to coach people. He knows how to essentially, you guys don't want to mention Ndombele, but I'm going to mention him. If he can get a tune out of this guy, show him love. Show him that he's somebody that he believes in, that he wants him to be here. And why is Christina covering her face? But yeah, Ndombele is a talented player, man.
Let's cover that quote now. Let's get it out of the way before Jason does turn the lights out. He was asked what he made of Ndombele this week and whether it would be part of his plans. He said, look, saying he's been good. He's working hard at training. I'm laughing because Jason's on here, and I'm saying that Tuggy's working hard at training. He's obviously a very talented player. He was part of the team that won Serie A last year. Yeah, and within that context, I'm pleased to have him here as part of the group. What that means long term, again, I will not get into the definitive of that because a lot that will happen on the team, how it shapes and how he shapes up. He may decide this is not for him. I'm not sure. Like I said, the group I have had in so far have been really good at embracing the change of direction, the way we are doing things. As I said, once we all get the guys in, it'll be great to see everyone measures up, and it'll be made moving forward from there, our relation to who will be involved and who isn't. But obviously, he makes that point that everyone's working hard. Because they've got no bloody choice. They have to work hard. So, Pat, where does Ndombele fit into the Tottenham jigsaw, if it even does exist, and Ndombele future at Tottenham?
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say he's a starter, but he definitely would add some quality off the bench. I think we've got a lot. It's going to be a long season. We don't know how long it's going to take for Bentancur to hit the ground running. God forbid there's an injury or two. The guy's talented. And as long as he can, we've seen the clips in training of him actually putting a shift in and running. We all know how good he is on the ball. We all know how silky and how smooth he is.
Just for context, it was one clip and Ndombele was sprinting. This is the point that I remember. No disrespect. I remember, having seen Soldado here in Alabayor. I was clapping them to be running. This is where we've come tonight. I tell you,
It is mental. These are standard things in football. In any sport, you've got to run, right?
It's the basics. He's on 250. Is he still on? He's one of the highest earners at the club, and he's still on about 250 grand a week.
Yeah, he's on 250 a week. Yeah, so at one point, this guy was one of the most sought after central midfielders in Europe, and the guy has got bundles of ability, oozes class. It's just whether he wants to play or not. Postecoglou did come out and say something that, his rise to the top isn't the same as others. He wasn't brought through an academy. It wasn't drilled into him. He actually rose from Division 3 or 4 straight up to, Division 1. And so he's a bit different. But sorry, it was Stellini who come out and said this. Sorry, Stellini. But he's 26 now. He's had a kid. Hopefully he's matured. He's played in other leagues. He hasn't done essentially what he needed to do in the sense of he's still at Tottenham. So I just hope and pray that the penny finally drops and this guy becomes the player that we all hoped he would 2 or 3 years ago. Because there is a player in there, and as much as people may not agree with what I'm saying, at the end of the day, if it comes good, we're all gonna. No one's agreeing with me. But
no, Pat, I am. Me and Jason a couple of summers ago. It took over the whole summer. Me saying he should stay. Jason said he shouldn't. And normally in me and Jason's debates, 9 times out of 10, Jason ends up being right. So as he did with Mourinho, he left me during Mourinho. He came back to me after Mourinho's time here. As many would know on Last Word on Spurs, Jason's always had the right side of the arguments, where I think even Jason said at the time, we should sell Alderweireld. Do you remember that, Jason? One of our first debates on the Love Sport. And I said, no, we should keep Toby Alderweireld. And maybe you'd argue now, should we have sold Toby at that time? Would we have also, again, done a form of a rebuild? It's difficult, isn't it? With Ndombele, look, I think we'll have to see how the rest of the summer pans out. It looks like we're going to come on to in a second. Højbjerg might be leaving the club. Does that change the direction in terms of what Spurs do in that midfield area? Just to finish up on this presser with Ange, from his perspective, he was asked what it was like to leave Celtic. He did say it was a tough decision. It's a special football club. They've got great players. They've got a great infrastructure. But now is his goal to try and make some special moments here at Tottenham and create something special for this great football club. We have to end it on this, Jace. I think it's right I come to you to end it on this one, because this was the funniest part of the press conference. It won't be the funniest for everybody because everyone have different parts of what was funny. But he was asked the question, look, you've taken over a Spurs side without European football, finished 8th in the league, and that hasn't happened in a long time. what will success look like for you? And then obviously he was reminded that Spurs haven't won a trophy in around 15 years. And you know what? I think he took it so well. He laughed and said, look, you created a very bleak picture. But I was excited about this, to be fair, without being dismissive. This is why I'm here. And that's what I love about this, because for all of it all, I want to bring success to this football club. And I want to bring European football back to this football club, to bring it back to where it has to be. The biggest thing is that this is an enormous challenge here. And I love it. And for me, all my career, I've always taken over a side who've needed a rebuild. And this is the challenge, to create something that hopefully lasts over my tenure, because I won't be here forever. What a great success story does it look like? The fans will tell me that. I mean, it's lovely words. What did you take away from, I think, what was quite a pivotal point in that presser when that question was asked?
I think he's coming into the scenario that Pochettino walked into. And that's why I said I think it's an easier job for him, because there isn't the expectancy there. You know, when Jose and Conte came in, it was, we've got to win a trophy, we've got to win it, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Now it's, you know, there are plenty of people that think we're going to finish in the bottom half and things. So I think it is a lot easier for him to get that. And like I've said, I think the fact that we're not in Europe, particularly in his first season, so that he can get proper training time on the pitch for 4 or 5 days in the build-up to games, I think there's a massive chance for him. And the fact that 5 clubs can get Champions League football next year, I think there is a huge chance for Tottenham to get Champions League football, despite all the doom and gloom that everyone has. Because I don't see Newcastle finishing above us. I honestly don't. I don't see Villa and Brighton finishing above us. I think we're in a 6-way race for 5 positions. And I certainly think Tottenham will be in Europe come the end of next season. And I think there is a huge chance, despite all the reservations people have, that Tottenham will make enough additions and the changes will be enough for us to get from 62 points to 70 points. And if we get 70 points, we will have Champions League football. So, you know, I think there is a big chance for success. And I think where supporters have wanted more of a focus on cup competitions, I think probably even Daniel now realises there is no Europe, particularly before Christmas. There's none of the group stage of stresses and strains. You might get caught up in the run-in February, March, where you think, Christ, we're 4th and we're in a quarter final. But I think I think Tottenham will really target winning that Carabao Cup, because it's over and done with in February. You know, the semi-finals are in January, for God's sake. So if you get through that and you're in that final and you've sorted that by February, you then can kind of bin the FA Cup off and think, right, now we go full steam ahead for those Premier League places. But I think there's a great chance for Tottenham to have more success this year than we've had in the past 4 or 5, for sure. The opportunity for us to really push it will be there. And I think there's a great opportunity for him.
Yep.
Great opportunity. And what a way to prove some doubters wrong. If you remember, Poch's first season, we did get to a cup final, didn't we, when we had Chelsea?
Yep.
We had that little run around Christmas where we beat Chelsea 5-3 and we were on that run. We got to we lost it to Chelsea. But I think we can have a very similar season to Poch's first under him, where there's not quite the expectancy and the demands. I think even the media will look at Tottenham and think, well, they're not going to get there. And I think he can ride that and have a big one for us.
I say this all the time, though, Jason, because quickly on this point, you know, if you take those cup competitions seriously, and again, you're right what you're saying. If we win the Carabao Cup, everyone will turn around and say that's not the right cup. But there's a genuine opportunity with that cup there. Although I know Spurs have an additional round now because they're not in Europe, that if you take that competition fairly seriously, you can be in a final by January.
Don't tell me that the Carabao Cup is the wrong cup when you're trying to tell me winning the European checker trade is a wonderful achievement. But
listen, Jay,
because that is a tin pot.
Listen, we've been starved. It's been starved for 15 years here. I'll take anything at this point. I'll take the Peace Cup again or the Audi Cup. I couldn't care less.
I know you would, Rick. But if anyone wants to come on in 12 months' time and say, yeah, but you've only won the Carabao Cup, when they're telling me that the sights of West Ham...
Well, that's the last thing we bloody won. That was the last thing we bloody won.
The streets of East London with a few mob chasing the bus down the road is a wonderful sight. Then please, give your head a wobble. Because the Carabao Cup is about 25 levels above the checker trade tin pot.
100%.
Okay, look, we have got to squeeze in a quick summer window latest update, which Jason can't wait to close the show on. Before we do, finally, Ange's last question of the interrogation was, are there any players injured that will miss the tour? He said, not at the moment. We do have a couple of doubts. Obviously, Bentancur still got his injury and he's still a little bit of a way off. And Fraser Forster has got a bit of a back injury. We'll see how we go in the next few days. I would really like as many as the group as possible to come along for it, because it's the best way to figure out how we set up our environment and culture around the group, even if there is everyone there. And it's really interesting, Christina and Pat, to close it on this point with you both. We'll go to you, Christina, first, and then Pat. That I just wonder, Christina, whether we're going to see a bit of change in tack with Tottenham. Under Conte and Mourinho, we had players that were left behind of tours to sort out their personal futures. Are you expecting, Christina, the majority, if not everyone of that squad, to be going on these pre-season tours?
I feel like everyone's going to be involved in this. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be I don't think there's going to be any no one's going to be left behind. I don't think Ange's got that that attitude at the moment, because he needs to get to know these players, surely, right? So, I think he's going to get everyone involved in this, and that's what I think is going to be exciting to see, is how these players, their attitude towards this now, with being under Ange, how they're going to play, basically. I'm really, the one that I'm looking forward to the most, actually, is to see Son. I feel like he needs to become Son again, and that's what I'm really hoping to see, is Ange get him back, basically. So I don't think
that
he's going to be.
Injury was big though, wasn't it, Christina? That we've subsequently found out about it. That's a big
How
injury.
bad
that
is that?
Yeah.
And the fact that
he was allowed to play through it rather than using somebody else.
It was terrible, and the amount of abuse that man got,
absolute
disgrace. And from the Tottenham fans themselves, it was appalling. So he's the one player I truly believe deserves so much. He literally has Tottenham running through his blood. He loves us so much, and I just generally want the best for him. I want Heung-min Son to come back, and I really think he will. He's the one player I'm actually going to be really keeping an eye on. And actually another one as well is Pedro Porro, because I really think he's going to have a really good season. So high hopes for those boys. But I just think Andrew's going to get everyone involved in this, and he's going to see exactly who he wants basically now. Yeah. So
it's interesting to say that, Christina, because I think Pat said earlier, at the time with Sonny, when Spurs are at their most lowest, there's a man there, and I won't steal Pat's thunder, he said it earlier in the show, who committed his future to Tottenham. And there's another man at the moment who is leading Spurs' charge up front that isn't quite doing that. So look, we'll see where this does take us. Pat, before we do discuss where Spurs are on the transfer front of things, I'm laughing because I've got Jason involved in this. I'm not sure if he'll even be here for it at this rate. He's giving a look to say he might stay. It's stay around. Pat, let's close it with you, mate. Now, obviously, press conference is over. You had your doubts, of course, when he was appointed. Asking you now, after the first press conference, because you'll be coming a lot of the pre-season games and a lot of Tottenham's games on Last Word on Spurs this season coming. How do you feel now, Pat? Putting you on the spot.
I know you put me on the spot, man. So, you know what? I'll just be honest. There's no point me trying to downplay it to cover what I said before. I'm excited. I like him. I like what he's saying. I like what he's about. I like how direct he is. I like that he doesn't shy away or shirk away from questions. Obviously, seeing is believing. The football is another side of it. But all he's done so far is good stuff and positive stuff. So, like I said, it is... Pat is falling for Ange, and I see why. Like I said earlier, when there's positive things and all you see is negativity surrounding it, it does baffle me. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and then be negative when there's nothing to be negative about, so to speak. You did say about if he's going to bring players on tour with him. I wouldn't say. I want him to give everyone a chance, the youngsters, the academy guys, people that have been on the fringes. But I wouldn't think Hugo Lloris and Perisic, those two players, people that are clearly and openly said they want to go, even Davinson Sanchez, those guys, what's the point of taking them along? Ultimately, they're not going to be here next year. There's no point. You're actually wasting a roster space and wasting playing time for youngsters or people that you want to take a look at. We know what Perisic can do. I don't think he had the worst season of all seasons, but he's on a big contract. It's clear he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't have the legs to get up and down like he used to. It's time for him to move on. Hugo Lloris, fantastic captain. been a fantastic servant for the club, giving us his best years, and he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But obviously, we know the last 2 or 3 years haven't been great. He obviously wants to move on as well. What's the point of taking him along? There's no point. But going back to Postecoglou, so far so good.
Kevin says there, new soap opera, Pat and Ange. That'll be on just after Hollyoaks and Channel 5, will it? Just after the watershed.
So,
it might be after the watershed, depending on some of the performances this season.
You know, and that's what I did say. I said at the time as well, I hope that I'm proven wrong by Postecoglou, and I hope he goes on to be our best ever manager. That's what I want. I want success at Tottenham. And,
totally agree.
You know, I couldn't care less. Obviously, no, that's a lie. I do care who the manager is, but I couldn't care less who it is, as long as they're doing what we want to see and what we haven't seen so far, delivering, getting us across that line. You know, the guy down the road, like Jason said, in Southwest London, he was brilliant for most parts, but ultimately he didn't cross that line. We need the new guy to cross that line, you know. So yeah, so far so good with Postecoglou. I'm, you know, gonna only judge it on what I've seen and heard, and it gives me comfort that everywhere he's been, it's kind of been in this position, and he stepped up. Obviously, the Premier League is a different kettle of fish, but like you guys have all said, the fact that we don't have Europe next year is a blessing in disguise. So let's see. But again, that means Daniel Levy, you know, if there's anyone, because I know they definitely do hear stuff that we say, and they definitely...
You got bloody Postecoglou here quoting a bloody crazy train. What's that really? He's only been in the job a day.
What I'm going to say is, you know, you guys, the board, don't rest on your laurels. There's still a lot for us to do in a transfer window. If we really want to be competitive, we can't go into the new season with this squad right now. We need reinforcements.
Yep, agree. Just let you know, Christina, you probably know anyway. He's been down Desiree twice already, Postecoglou.
When are we going?
We're going to sort it out.
You messaged me the other day. We've got to go. And then get him on the show.
Rock up with a mic, just as he's putting the Savlagia down himself, the poor bloke.
Literally.
Can't even enjoy the food.
Honestly, I'll go up to him and just be like, Angelo, I love you. Literally. I can't wait to give him a hug.
No, that's it. We'll see where we can get hold of the man. God, he must think now, was his stalkers coming onto the bloke. We will see where it goes. What we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of the show. For our listeners and all, just a reminder here with Jason on the show, and I have to do this, that we are always delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Now, for those that are going with Tottenham on the tour, look, we're going to be bringing you all the coverage of those pre-season friendlies, and you can watch them live, of course, using NordVPN's tool. It allows you, of course, to not only just watch football, but you can purchase flights from different virtual locations to find cheaper flights. You can save money by obviously purchasing subscriptions with other countries at a cheaper price, YouTube, etc., Spotify. So make sure you do go and check Nord out. Of course, right now is a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 1 month free and a bonus gift. And it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day back money guarantee. Right. Let's close it on where we are with Tottenham Hotspur in the transfer window. Jace, let's start with you. We're going to try and summarise as quickly as we can. Appreciate for bingo callers out there, we are a little bit conscious of time.
I've got my mate Fabrizio with me to speak. Look.
Oh man, Jace, let's kick off with Pierre Højbjerg. So as things stand at the moment, it appears that there's lots of interest coming his way from Atletico Madrid. And we understand Højbjerg is open to a move to Atletico Madrid as he is keen to play Champions League football next season. It appears Spurs are also maybe open to letting him go, despite the fact there has been reports Spurs may be reluctant to bring or let him go, depending on who they can get in return. So it's interesting, Jess. I just wonder for you on Højbjerg whether you'd let him go and also how you would summarise his time at the club. I mean, a lot of people look at him maybe towards a similar profile of a Wilson Palacios kind of ish figure that was kind of needed for a job at the time, and maybe we've outgrown that kind of player now. Is that how you see it with Højbjerg?
I think he's... I would let him go. Yeah, I probably would. I think he needs properly replacing, though, that in the sense that he has been a mainstay of that team, and you can't just bring in a squad rotation player. And with Bentancur's injury, which despite the videos of him, you know, it'll be next year before you see anywhere like the Bentancur of old. So there's a lot of football to be played before we see Bentancur. And whether we like it or not, that position that Højbjerg's had, I expect Bissouma to figure a lot more. But there is a role for that. So if he goes, he's got to be properly replaced. I felt a little bit for him. I think he's probably been a better player or a more effective player than we give him credit for. But I think the style of football that we played and the negativity and the lack of creativity that we had was kind of directed at him. And in fairness to him, that was never his strength of football, was it? We kind of wanted him to do the job that Maddison is now brought in to do. And there's a massive job between Højbjerg and James Maddison. So I think if we'd have allowed him to be the defensive midfield player that didn't have to try and create things and drive forward with the ball, you'd have seen a much better all-round player. So I think he's had I feel a little bit sorry for him in his time at Tottenham, that he was asked to do things that didn't suit him, and he got blamed by supporters for not being good enough to do things that he was never brought in to do. So I kind of feel a little bit for him, but I would let him go. I think he's only got 2 years left on his contract. So if the long-term aim isn't to give him another contract, then you might as well move him on. I don't think it's, I think the chance to have Bissouma or anyone else that is genuinely press. I think in that role now, the way you want to play, you've got to have somebody that can take the ball and be able to play on that half turn and be press resistant, which perhaps doesn't suit him the most. So I probably would let him go for sure.
Asked you to on that follow up very quickly, Jace, before I ask Christina and Pat as well on him. Jace, who is, if I asked you out there, who is the, in your mind, ideal replacement caliber kind of player for him? Do you have anyone in mind you can think of that you would say, yep, that's what I'd have as an alternative to Højbjerg you can think of?
It's hard.
Do you need to have a light for light? Do we need to have a light for light, do you think?
I don't think a light for I think somebody that's got more capability than him. I mean, Bissouma is Bissouma, let's be honest, 12 months ago, we didn't think Højbjerg was in the team. We thought our choice midfield is Bentancur and Yves Bissouma. And now you've got Maddison. I think if you looked at that and you thought Bentancur, Bissouma, Maddison. But like I say, Bentancur's out for a long time. Bissouma spent a lot of last time injured. But I'm not even sure James Ward-Prowse is the right one for us. I could see James Ward-Prowse being a squaddy type player, but not somebody. But I think it's a really big year for Yves Bissouma. When you're talking about players you want to see earlier, for me, Bissouma's the one that because he was terrific at Brighton. He did run games at Brighton. And I'm really looking forward to seeing a fit, fully focused, with some confidence behind him, Yves Bissouma. And I think if we get that player, then we'll forget Højbjerg. But you've still got to replace Højbjerg for sure.
Okay, interesting. Christina, because I'm a little bit conscious of time, I'm going to let you have your opinion on Højbjerg, but also ask you on news that has come through this evening from Fabrizio Romano that Tottenham Hotspur's Davinson Sanchez is ideally looking for a move. It appears that move will be in the form of Turkish side Galatasaray, in which Fabrizio has confirmed that Galatasaray have sent a verbal proposal to Tottenham for Sanchez. We understand the proposal is around €9 million. God, when you think what we paid for Sanchez, one of the record signings at the time.
I don't think that's. I would go for between 12 to 14 mil.
If you're going to be honest and say this, though, you look at what he's got left on his contract, and you look at the fact, Spurs are in a position where I know for a fact Sanchez has wanted to leave Tottenham, and Tottenham have been the ones that have adamantly decided he's going to stay because they won't get the fee. I think we're in a difficult situation is some of that. With the kind of money being offered, Spurs are going to have to, I think, sacrifice a couple. And I think he's got to be one of them. I think if you're looking to, really improve that area of defence, he's got to go. I'm not being against the guy. I think he's a nice guy. 100%. I think he generally wants to, do well at Tottenham. But ultimately, again, not being disrespectful, he's just not at the grade of what Spurs are now. And I think, again, we're in a position where, Christina, I'll be honest with you, I think we have to be open to a figure like that, because otherwise, if we're going to be like that over the other players, we're not going to move anyone on.
Yeah, you got to cut your losses, man. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses and accept. Yeah. It's not a great fee, but like you said, we need to free up some roster space. And if we haggle and haggle and haggle, these guys will still be with us when the window closes.
What do you think, Christina? If we have to let him go?
To be honest, I think we need to let him go for his own sake. Honestly, I felt heartbroken that match when all the fans started booing him. I honestly thought it was so awful that we did that to him. So I do think for his own sake, he does need to go. And he's just not lived up to what we thought he was going to be, sadly. With the Højbjerg situation as well, I'm not too fussed if he goes, if I'm completely honest. Exactly what Jason said. I think Bissouma, this is his time to shine now, especially if we get rid of him. So yeah, to me, I really feel like this is somewhere we can now see what Basuma can do, because I was so excited when we signed him. He was amazing at Brighton. So I'm hoping that he comes through now, and yeah, this is his time.
Okay, and also to ask you,
as I'm saying about replacing him, I'm forgetting Sarr. I'd like to see Sarr have more opportunity, because he was, he was times we saw Sarr. There was enough in Sarr to look at him and think.
I know people might clip this for their own purposes. Newcastle fans might clip this, but for 45 minutes, Sarr had the running of Tonali in that Champions League game. And I'm not saying he just needs a better player than Tonali. I'm just saying that when I've seen Sarr, and especially even the Arsenal game, which I know we won't have fond memories over, he was really good for a period of that game. And again, I know you've got to play it over 90 minutes, but again, as a real promising player, then I'm the same as you, Jason, Christina. I want to see this guy getting more game time. It does mean letting Højbjerg go. I wouldn't be completely against the idea of Sarr getting more opportunities. I've liked what I've seen from him. The one player I wanted to ask you about, Christina, before I come over to Pat to kind of summarise on these players, that's Ivan Perisic. We got some news at the back end of last week that apparently there was reports Spurs were close to terminating his contract, Ivan Perisic, so he could return to Croatia with Hajduk Split. Now, again, I don't really mean that was from Damasio, a fairly reputable source of transfer windows. How do you see this playing out for you, Christina? Do you think Perisic will leave? And if so, would you be surprised to see him return to that form of a club? I thought he would play at more of a higher level just based on overall, even his dead ball, moves for Tottenham assist-wise. They were right up there with some of the best in the league. I think as a player, he did underwhelm us, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's just he's another player. If he leaves, I'm not really going to miss him that much. I was really underwhelmed by him. I had high hopes for him because I thought, he's got all of this experience and I thought he would, help with all the team with what he's got. But it just didn't fit in. It just did not fit in with what we've got at the moment. So again, I wouldn't miss him too much. And I think these players, we just need to push them now, let them go and bring in new blood at the end of the day. It's young. I want young players now. We totally forgot, but Destiny as well. I can't wait to see that
agreed.
kid
Another player, another young player. It'll be interesting to see where all these players fit in. We say it here, there's so many players. Sorry, Jess.
You've got to think, Rick, as well, with Perisic. We probably did sign him 2 years too late or something. But the main thing, you're right, was his set piece delivery. But you've just signed James Maddison.
Yeah.
So you've got. I'm not just talking about taking a free kick at goal. I'm talking about in wide areas, and Porro can deliver a good ball. So you'd like to think you can, if that's the one thing that he had in his favour, that you've kind of solved those problems, because you'd expect Maddison. I mean, I'll be more annoyed if I see Harry Kane ever taking a free kick again next season. That's for sure.
Oh God, won't we all? No, I do agree. Pat, we're going to come around to you, summarise it now for us. Tell us your thoughts on Højbjerg, where you feel we are at with Davinson Sanchez, and of course also Ivan Perisic, and even you want to throw Ryan Sessegnon in there. There was some tentative links last week to Forest. Pat, keep, sell, buy. What do you think's going to happen with those players?
Yeah, Højbjerg, I'm not one of these guys that is driving them out. But also at the same time, I do think we do need to freshen up that midfield. Like Jason was saying, we need guys that are a bit better on the ball, a bit more press resistant. Christina alluded to it as well. Someone that is good on the half turn, like Sarr. I wouldn't be that annoyed if we get rid of Højbjerg, and then obviously you push Sarr forward. You've got Basuma, but I feel we need one more quality player, maybe like an Amrabat. Someone that is good, we know, can play in big game situations. And just, if we get rid of Højbjerg and we don't bring anyone in, I do question if someone gets injured, then we're back to square one again. Davinson Sanchez, definitely a good guy, given, a lot of good years to Tottenham, but just didn't progress in the season that we thought he would. After the first year, we all thought first season he was brilliant for us, man. He was a beast. He was a monster. He was good at tackling, okay on the ball. It's never been his, strongest area, but there were so many other things that you could forgive him for that. But he's just regressed, and it's not been his fault entirely, because, for the last 2 or 3 coaches, no one's really coached him. But also at the same time, you're a professional footballer. You should also take that upon yourself to, progress and push on. So definitely time for him to move on. Eric Dyer as well, time for him to move on. I keep seeing stuff or quotes that he's not going to leave and he's fighting for his place. And I'm thinking, how has this guy got so much authority to say to Tottenham that he's not leaving and he's staying? Sometimes, you just get cut. He's another guy, cut your losses on him. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. If we want to be the team that we're meant to be, Eric Dyer can't be playing in defence for us. Because we've just seen time and time again all the mistakes he's made. So he needs to go. I already touched on Perisic. I don't want to see him on the tour because, with all due respect, we know what he can offer. Strong rumours that he wants to go. It's time for him to obviously pull the curtain. And then it's just about bringing in some quality, some smart and shrewd acquisitions. In trusting in youth as well. We want to see Postecoglou trusting some of these guys, Alfie Devine, Pepe Matasar, a lot of these youngsters that didn't really get a look in under the old managers. We want to see them, obviously, Destiny. Jed Spence, we're seeing stuff that he's looking to go out unknown again.
Also, Pat, very quickly, the update on this. And again, Jason, I know you'll take this for what it's worth. Pinch of salt maybe for you. Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted Spurs are advancing in their talks with Wolfsburg for Mickey van der Ven. And there's now understanding that an agreement between the clubs is close. Negotiations are underway. Talks on Monday were really positive, waiting for key details, more to follow. So it looks Tottenham might be closing in on one of, hopefully for me, I hope it's one of two central defenders. Sorry, Pat, to steal your thunder there. But it's a good way to end it, Pat. We'll come to you, go to Christian and Jason. Final question for everybody. Pat, what do Spurs need to do? What else do they need in this window for you?
Tapsoba and Mickey van der Ven, we need both of them, in my opinion. These talks about progressing and getting close, we've heard that for almost 2 weeks now. So please, just get it done, man. It's essentially the same update. It's good news, but it's the same thing we've been seeing for the last week or so. But we need Mickey van der Ven, Tapsoba. If Højbjerg leaves, we need to replace him. That's probably it I can think of at the moment. And I would like another creative midfielder, if I'm being honest, like an Alex Scott type of player.
Yeah, Bristol City.
Someone that is like a deep laying playmaker. Yep. It doesn't have to be as advanced or as far forward as Maddison, but someone who's also good on the ball and can create, because we've been missing so much creativity in the last couple of years. So it doesn't hurt to get another one in. Absolutely.
Pat, thank you so much, mate. Always a pleasure. You'll be back with us during pre-season. Go and check Pat out as always. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, @Patrick Tymon. A pleasure. Christina, love to be back on Last Word on Spurs as always. I'll finish that question with you as well, the same one to you. What do Spurs need to do between now and the end of the window to be season ready, in your opinion?
Tapsoba and Mickey, you're so fine. Literally. If them two, I think I'll be very happy. But do you know what? Great shout on Alex Scott as well. Great young player. So I totally agree with that. So
amazing. Hopefully. Christina, thank you so much. As always, look, you can go and check Christina's opinions out. As always, @Christina Zandes on Twitter. And look, she'll be back with us very, very soon on Last Word on Spurs. Sooner than you know it, as always. Love having Christina on. Keep watching out, Christina Downhill, Desiree, for our man, Mr. Postecoglou. We're stalking that guy like a stalker. Jace, I think this is your final show with us, mate, before you go off for Opti Thailand to go and watch the Spurs in Bangkok. We'll have to close you and ask you how excited you are of that. But maybe firstly, just to summarise for you, what do you think Tottenham needs to do to be season ready before you tell us what's in your diary for pre-season?
Do some ins, do some outs, shut the window, follow Spurs Official for all your transfer news, and forget the people that drag transfers out for 4, 5, 6 weeks with no difference in the updates, like we've just said about Mickey. So, same story as it's been for 2 weeks.
So you're looking forward to it then, yeah?
You still get 75 tweets a day about Mickey van der Ven, and it's like, wait till Spurs Official say, there's the picture. It's the best transfer stories of the lot come from Spurs Official. I wouldn't, in terms of the tour, I think for supporters, don't look too much for playing and result wise, because it's winter in Perth, and last year I think Man United played Villa out there and the game wasn't even completed. I think they had to abandon it after about 70 minutes. You could be almost as certain that the game in Bangkok will be in monsoon conditions, either just before kickoff or during the game or something, and that the real benefit of the players will just be injury prevention. You know, you can imagine those players don't want to be playing in a monsoon and training in monsoon conditions. So I don't think you want to take too much into account of the two games, other than it's team building, team bonding, and the training sessions that we don't see will be when Ange can genuinely start doing his work and judge the tour on that rather than results. If we lose 4-0 to West Ham, I'm not in the least bit bothered. I mean, they're massive, and I think they've won the European Cup this year, didn't they? They're bigger than Manchester City now. So, and Gerard Bowen's going to go and win the Golden Boot because, that's what he is. They're a different level to anyone else now in England. So I would expect them to beat us 4-0 anyway for such a massive club. And then going against Leicester, it'd be great to see Winks against Maddison in the opposition shirts. That'll be take some getting used to. But let's just, let's have some patience in the window as well. Don't always believe what's in the media and don't think things aren't happening. I mean, the greatest example of that is the manager, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he was probably much higher up the list than we all think he was. I'm not saying he was number one, but in all of that 70 days, I think Tottenham were quite happy to let others managers be banked. And then as soon as Celtic's season finished, he signed. I mean, do we really think we went to Celtic Monday morning and it was agreed Monday lunchtime? There was a lot of talking before Celtic season finished, obviously, with him about everything. So that just shows you that conversations go on that you don't know about, and that the club is quite happy for you to be led down another line. And I mean, even on Arne Slot, this isn't a question so much about Tottenham. If a Premier League club, a top half Premier League club, even a West Ham or an Everton, had come along and offered Arne Slot the job, he would have left finaled. You don't stay in the Dutch league with a Premier League club, a big Premier League club coming for you. You don't. You saw that with Ten Hag and that. It doesn't happen. So, I think Tottenham were happy to let stories go out there. And that's what happens in the transfer window, mate. They're happy to let you think we're chasing somebody while they're looking at somebody else. And that's why Fabrizio, for me, is in the dustbin all the time, mate.
Well, I will say, Jace,
not just Fabrizio, incidentally, lots of them.
All right, don't think too. We have none of these transfer window shows left on a Wednesday. The way you carry on, Jesus Christ!
I'm not on with him next week, am I? You're not on with the special.
Not as things stand. If I get desperate, I'll make sure not to call you. Thank you so much, Jace. Thank you, mate. Always a pleasure. He offends either half the viewership or the listeners or any contributors that we've got here. It'll just be me by myself for the next couple of years left, and I've still got Jason with me for the last 7 years.
Cheers, Fab. Cheers, Fab. I hear you, mate. I hear you.
The wonderful Jason McGovern. Jace, thank you so much, mate. Always a pleasure. We'll have Jason back on after he goes to Thailand. Jason, wishing you all a speedy trip. Love having Jason on. Absolutely amazing. It's been 7 years, I think. 7 years. I'll let him describe if it's been torture or whatever doing these shows. But
Sanchez's debut was our first show. Do you realise that?
That is, bloody true. It was.
Listen away.
Look what it's done to you. Look what it's done to me 7 years later of that. Jesus Christ. Listen, we're going to let you all go. Jace, thank you so much. We had the wonderful Christina Zandes and Patrick Tyrant. Guys, we're back with you sooner than you know it for a transfer special. Jason can't wait. As always, guys, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last One on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, keep the faith. And as always, come on you Spurs.